Welcome to another episode of Roll or Die. We like to bring you the hidden gems on the Roll or Die podcast. We're all about connecting the community at all corners of this great land of ours. Today, we have a guest who many of you may not have heard of, but he's got a really unique story, and we're looking forward to sharing that with you. His name is Matt Rice. He's a brown belt out of Victor Harbour, and he essentially set up his own gym, Victor Harbour BJJ. Thanks for joining us, Matt.
Thank you very much for having me.
Our pleasure. So, first of all, I think Adam Wright introduced you to us, and I want to actually take a moment to thank Adam, but also to offer any of our other listeners who come across people who have interesting stories to definitely reach out to us on the Roll or Die page, because we probably wouldn't have heard about you otherwise. I don't think you're out there crushing, killing, and destroying people on the international comp circuit, but you have definitely you've filled a need in a community where there wasn't something available before. Is that right?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And thanks to Adam as well. He came out right near the start, not long after I'd first opened up, and so I had a chat to him there. And obviously, he thought my story was quite interesting. So yeah, thanks to him. And yeah, there was nothing down in Victor Harbour, in Victor Harbour when I started. And through my coach, Tom Davey, he said, hey, if you want to do any coaching, how about down your way? Because I live that way. He said, there's nothing there. So why don't you get started there? And very simply, I just said, I'm going for it, and just started.
Yeah, right.
And Matt, where exactly is Victor Harbour for our listeners?
So it's down the bottom of the Fleurieu Peninsula. So we're probably just over an hour south of Adelaide.
I'm just zooming out here. Hopefully you guys can see my screen for a moment. Victor Harbour.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, there we go.
It's about Anton and I are in Melbourne. So from people in Melbourne, like an hour is not really too far away, but for the little bit I know about Adelaide, it seems like if anything's more than 15 minutes away in Adelaide, people consider it too far. So is that considered like quite a bit out of Adelaide for people that are in South Australia?
It is a little bit. It's a very touristy town, but it's also referred to as the retirement capital of South Australia. So a lot of people go down there, A, to retire, or B, because they want to see change and they want to live down on the south coast.
That's great. So do you get a lot of, what's the kind of average age of people training at your gym?
So I've got some in their sort of 20s, a few in the 30s and into the 40s as well. So average is probably 30s, late 30s, something like that.
Okay. Yeah.
Awesome. So you haven't hit on too many of those retirees just yet.
Yeah.
No, I've spoken to plenty of them about it, but they all complain they've got one thing or another that for a reason why they can't do it. I did think about trying to hit them up and do something gentle. You'd kind of lose the beauty of jiu-jitsu if you do it too gentle like that.
It's all in the marketing though, because doesn't jiu-jitsu translate to the gentle art? So if you just call it the gentle art, the gentle martial art, put that everywhere.
Come on, but we all know what a lie that is, Anton. After 5 minutes on the mat, there's nothing gentle. Yeah.
That's what they think. And a lot of them say they'll be able to get up off the ground again.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there is a market for it somewhere, but yeah, maybe not in Victor Harbour to start with. It sounds like you're doing pretty good things there at the moment. So tell us that story. How did it come about?
So a long time ago, I had my first proper full-time job working at a winery, and I had a viticulture certificate one that I got for free before that. And I got this job at the winery. I thought that's great. I can learn a bit about the winery and maybe move into working in the vineyards. And I did that for a few years, and I thought that's going great. I was enjoying that. And then I kind of lost my opportunity and my will to want to work. And so I stayed in the winery and I ended up staying there for 21 years, I think it was. And most of that time I was like, what else can I do? Where else can I go? And just hung on while I was looking for something else and never found anything else to move into. So I kind of got really overworking there and started Jiu Jitsu. And a few years in, I was talking to my coach about doing some coaching for him. And he said, hey, why don't you start up a club down in Victor Harbour and do it yourself?
But how did you find that for, like, you're looking and there's nothing, right? Where did you see jiu-jitsu? Like, how did you meet your coach? How did that open up for you?
Yeah, so kind of later at night, sitting at home watching TV. I used to do a long time ago some tennis and volleyball, mostly tennis growing up. And I hadn't done anything after having kids for about 8 years, and I was sitting at home watching TV, and late at night, Bellator came on. And so I started watching a bit of mixed martial arts. And so after watching that for a little while, I thought, you know what, I want to get into something active again, and I wouldn't mind a martial art. And I saw jiu-jitsu and I thought, I'd prefer to do no striking. That grappling looks a bit more intelligent, I guess. So then I just started looking it up and found my coach's club at Seaford, which for me, where I was working, was only kind of down the road on the way home. So I thought, oh, it's perfect. So I contacted him, and a week later I was in on my first class, and straight in, got hooked.
Well, you're the first person who's ever discovered jiu-jitsu on our show through Bellator, not through the UFC. So
well, I think I saw like a few episodes of UFC, and then it stopped on free-to-air TV. And then Bellator came on for 6 months before that stopped. So I only barely saw a few of UFC and then lost track of that. And when Bellator came on, I tried to watch most of them. So I saw most of it through that.
Awesome.
So go on. So you were a blue belt at the time that you started this club up, is that right?
Yeah, I was 3-stripe blue belt. Yeah. And
how long ago was that?
That was 2018. I was supposed to start in January, but it was February, I think, or end of January 2018 I started.
Was that scary?
So about 5.5 years now.
Go on, Kim. You go.
It was a little bit.
No, I was going to ask, was that sort of quite ambitious, especially in 2018? You know, I sort of imagine, dare I say it, in like maybe 2008, starting a club as a blue belt wouldn't have been that unusual because there wasn't that much jiu-jitsu in Australia back then. But in 2018, like, there was quite a bit of jiu-jitsu, certainly in Australia.
It was, but it wasn't a hard decision for me because I really wanted to get out of the work that I was in, and finding something that I loved and thought, you know what, if I get to do that every day, that's going to be amazing. And so my mindset kind of allowed me not to be so scared and actually just say, stuff it, I'm jumping in. And it was partly a quote I got from a friend of my coach's, which was, I'd rather have an oh well than a what if. And I thought, you know what, stuff it, I'd rather have that oh well than wonder the rest of my life, what if I had tried and I never did. So stuff it, I'm doing it, and just quit my job and off I went.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think for me, like, one of the things which I mean, there's a lot, if you know more jiu-jitsu than your students and you are comfortable with the technique and you can pass it on properly, then that's what they need at the time, right? Because I guess if there's no jiu-jitsu in Victor Harbour and you bring some jiu-jitsu, as long as you stay ahead of them, you can always offer them something, I guess. And more importantly, a space to train, a great attitude, all of these sorts of things. So yeah, well, I guess everybody wants a black belt to teach them. It's not always possible. It's not always necessary. I remember when I was in Russia at one point, I was there, it was a few years ago, but there was just no black belts for thousands of kilometers around. The highest level was a purple belt in Russia, you know, in the place that I was in. I was like, okay, these guys, like, they had a full class. Actually, the club was called Black Belt Jiu Jitsu as well, which was funny.
What a lie. What a lie.
But really good guys, and they knew enough Jiu Jitsu, so it was great, you know. So yeah, so good on you, man.
Well, not that I was ever had ever done coaching before, but growing up doing a lot of tennis and then volleyball, I seemed to pick them up quite well, and I was really keen to help other people and coach other people, even though I wasn't, for example, like a black belt in tennis sort of thing. I still enjoyed helping people. So when I got into jiu-jitsu and I started learning a bit of that and understanding it a little bit, then I was keen to help people out there as well. And so I think my coach kind of saw it in me. He knew I had the right attitude, the right character for the job. So he was keen to support me to get into it.
Yeah.
And Matt, will you still continue? You said your coach was Tom Davey, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Were you still training with him when you first set this up? So you would do your classes and then go and train yourself and then go back and run your club?
Yeah, even now, I'm doing 4 days at Victor Harbour BJJ, and I'm doing 2 days a week still up at his gym at Seaford.
He's
So
I think I've come across him on YouTube. He's got a pretty big channel with his instructionals. Is that the right Tom Davey?
Yeah, yeah, that's the one. Been amazing support for me both in jiu-jitsu and as a coach.
Fantastic.
That's not Seaford, Victoria, is it? That's like Seaford.
No, Seaford in there must be a Seaford in South Australia.
Right.
Otherwise, it's a really long way for Matt to travel.
It's a real long way. Yeah. Cool.
It's on the mid coast of about half an hour south of Adelaide.
Okay. And what's your experience of building a club been like? Like I think Adam said in his message to us, it started out like you were just setting up mats somewhere, packing them down each day. You know, you basically it started off real small. So talk a bit about the journey of building a club from nothing, please.
So because I'd been an employee and not actually run my own business before, it's been a massive sort of experience having to learn how to run a business and starting a jiu-jitsu club as well as coaching virtually straight away. But I started at the rec centre in Victor Harbour. And because I didn't want to have to pull up and put down all these jigsaw mats or join mats too many together, I ended up getting some roll-out mats because they're much quicker and easier to pull apart and put together. So I store them in a shed at the rec centre and come down twice a week, pull them out, do my kids' classes and then adults' classes, then pack them up and just keep doing that. So I did that for probably about 18 months or so until I found a permanent sort of residence for me to do the club in. So yeah, I'm just hiring another shed. It's got a shop front on it, so it looks quite good. And in a nice street. So yeah, I've moved into there and been there since.
Yeah, great.
What about the promotion of it? Did you have to, like get publicity to get it happening, or did you rely on word of mouth, or how did you go about building it up?
So to start with, I did flyers around the place and I did some of the community pages, advertising on Facebook, and had a little bit of social media, and I started my website up and just kept pushing out there. To start with, it's a lot when you're trying to get into a community and people don't know who you are or even what you're about when it's jiu-jitsu. Nowadays, I find that's a lot of word of mouth that I'm getting a lot of good advertising through. So I don't feel like my advertising has to be as much. My Google ads have been working well because I'm the only jiu-jitsu club down there. So anything martial art related, I come popping up straight away. So yeah, that works well as well.
That's great. And what was it like? Like I'm like a lot of people say how hard it was to get their club going, and there were multiple times along the way where they're like, I don't know if this thing's gonna make it. I may have to shut it down. You know, like when you talk, like if you talked about like the first 3 months, like if you talked about 3 month blocks, like what was it like, okay, you had 2 students for the first 3 months and then you had like 6 and then it dropped back to 3 and then like, what was it like?
It's definitely done that. It's been up and down so many times, both student numbers and my feelings about continuing on.
Yeah.
And initially at the start, it's hard to get started because I thought there's nothing down here. As soon as people find out about jiu-jitsu in Victor Harbour, everyone's going to want to come in and jump in there. And it didn't quite happen like that. It was very slow and I thought, oh, this is going to take a bit longer than I thought. But I always had in the back of my head, and I still do, that I would rather be doing that than anything else. And so I had to get another casual job. So I've been working initially 2 days a week, then 3 days, and now still just outside of the jiu-jitsu, just to keep income coming in. And my family's been a massive support. They haven't once told me to stop, let it go and move on. I know times have been quite tough financially, but I love it so much and I believe in it so much and what I can do in the community that I just want to keep going and keeps driving me forward. Every time someone comes in, the next one is the next one, and yeah, just keep looking forward.
Amazing, man. Amazing. Kim and I were just talking about this before this show started, but like there has to be another reason than just money to teach jiu-jitsu most of the time, because let's face it, a lot of us can make more money elsewhere.
You can't go into it to make money. I don't think anyone would be able to do that. For me, you've got to love it and enjoy what you're doing. Yeah. So the other part of it for me is after I started, it was later on that I realized that this is potentially something really good for the community. And so that's helped drive me as well. If I can get more and more people to experience jiu-jitsu and get some confidence out of it and sort of learn how to enjoy life a bit more, and I think it's a lot better for the community. So I'm super keen to get more and more people in just to help as many as I can.
Good man.
Matt, we're a little bit of the way in, but I probably should have said this earlier on. I don't know if you can check your settings. I don't know if it's on my end only. That sometimes your audio is kind of a little bit shaky, a little bit cutting out. Are you using Wi-Fi or just your phone?
So I'll just have, it'll be my phone internet. It may just be where I am.
Yeah, maybe if you don't mind, we just don't want to miss any of the news. I mean,
the goodness.
It's okay, but it's a bit tricky.
You're absolutely right, Kim. We should have raised it earlier, but having said that, I feel like we've been getting the goodness. So for anyone who's listened so far from our listeners, thank you so much, because obviously what Matt is sharing is incredibly valuable, and we will probably even maybe Theo can run a little audio filter over the top and smooth this out. Maybe
may not be able to. So sometimes he curses me afterwards for saying, and so now I have to say, please, can you get the audio right at this time? So sorry, I don't know if you can move location, Matt, within where you are or whatever.
I'll see if I can move a little bit.
If you don't mind, sorry. We have technical issues all the time. Our listeners should be well versed with this, but yeah, I just want to make sure, because it's a great story. We don't want to kind of miss any of it. Is also
and now we get to see multiple areas of your house as well, brother. So
that's right.
This is what a Victor Harbour house looks like, everybody. Oh wow, look at that.
Beautiful. Wow. Now we wish we were there.
Is that a massive water tank out the back?
I'm looking at the sky. That's beautiful. Beautiful weather.
So how, like, your own progression, right? Because another thing Kim and I were talking about is when you teach, like for me, it enhances my jiu-jitsu. For Kim, it doesn't enhance her jiu-jitsu as far as she's concerned. Like
I didn't say that. No, it does. It definitely helps. Okay. But sometimes because you're teaching, you don't have the time to train yourself, was what
actually,
I meant.
that's more importantly, it cuts into your training. So it probably impacts your like fitness, right, Kim? That's what you're talking about. Not your skills, but your
thank you. Yes.
Okay, sorry. My bad. But yeah, so Matt, how have you found teaching all the time impact your own jiu-jitsu journey?
Well, I've definitely found both. Teaching definitely helps because it forces you to cement in your mind what you're actually doing, what you're teaching, and how you do it, and when you do it, and why you do it, all those sort of things. But then I do feel also it does cut into your own training time. And so I need to, even before and after my classes, sometimes I'll grab a student, say, hey, can I borrow you for a few minutes? And most of the time they're happy to help out because they get to do some learning alongside me. And so I can do a little bit that way, and I jump in quite regularly with my classes to do rolling at the end with the guys. So I still get to use them to practice some stuff as well. So it definitely does eat into your time a little bit, but I do find it also helps. So I think anyone that wants to learn more probably should do some form of teaching, even if it's just tiny little bits every now and then. I think it definitely helps because when you go to teach something and you go, oh, hang on, what am I doing here? You naturally do it physically, but to then explain it to someone, you need to think, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? How am I doing it?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think both applies.
Hmm.
And I also think, I add to that, that everyone should set up and pack up jigsaw mats at least once in their jiu-jitsu journey, because you can't say you're a true jiu-jitsu practitioner until you've done that.
Absolutely.
That is a bitch having to do that, I can
And
tell
you've
you
got to
that.
have a very, very neurotic coach who wants the jigsaws stacked a certain way, this way to that way, and then around this way. And if it's not that way, they're going to kick your ass.
Yeah. You haven't lived until you've loaded some jigsaw mats onto those things. Yeah. Oh, I'm having PTSD from it now. I wanted to ask you, Matt, about the students that do come in, the beginners. Like, I'm in Melbourne, it's a big city. So most of the time when people come in, they sort of know about what jiu-jitsu is, but they don't really fully know. They've seen it, on the UFC or in MMA or whatever. Do your new students know what jiu-jitsu is when they come in, or are they not?
I do get both. I get quite a few that know what it is, have been watching it for quite a while, normally through, like you said, mixed martial arts or UFC. Some of them might look up some jiu-jitsu competitions or something to see what it looks like. But I do get a few that come in, excuse me, that have no idea. They've just looked up martial arts in Victor Harbour and they've gone, oh, there's one. I'll see what that's about. And they come in and they go, well, we do no striking. It's all grappling, wrestling around on the ground. And they go, oh, okay. So they jump in and have a class. And most of the time they love it.
That's
Awesome.
interesting. They're going, yeah. I actually, now that I think about it, from someone who doesn't know anything about martial art, they think they're coming to a martial arts class. Yeah, it must be really weird for them to hear that there's no striking. Like I guess there's still people out there, quite a few people out there who don't know that about jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, if they haven't looked it up previously, they don't know and they don't understand until they get into it, and then they go, oh, okay. But I'd normally recommend for people just to jump straight in. Don't think about it. Don't worry about what's going to happen. Just jump in, because your coach is there to look after you. The other students are there to look after you. Most clubs are going to be pretty good, I think.
Do you have any way of explaining
And there
that?
you go.
Yeah, do you have any way of explaining that to them though? Because, like, to me, if I came there expecting I was going to be doing kicking and punching and getting what I've just seen on Netflix when I was watching that, spin-off of Karate Kid, whatever
Cobra Kai.
Cobra Kai. If I've watched Cobra Kai and I'm coming in and you're like, we just get on the ground, like, is it gonna sound cool, or do you have a way of explaining it? You just say we just get on the ground and roll around. That's what you say.
I do explain it by saying that when you strike, there's potential for both parties to get damaged. Even if you're the one doing the damage, you're still going to take some damage via your hands, fists, legs, whatever you're using. Whereas grappling, there's a lot less damage. And obviously that's why they call it a gentle art, because we're not striking. So you might get bruises or something, but if you can control someone well enough, that's sort of as bad as it gets. So for me, I sort of explain it that way. And that's why it's more gentle, because you're physically controlling someone with your whole body, not just with your fists and hand or legs. So I normally just sort of encourage them that way and say, look, there's no striking. We're just grappling. We're using our bodies. It's in weird ways, and that's why it works well. It's very foreign to everyone. So yeah, jump in, and normally once they do, they start to sort of go, oh, okay, this is what it's about.
Cool.
And most people love it straight away. Some obviously go a little bit hard on their first night and then go, oh, I can't do this. That's too hard. And I just keep telling them, settle down, slow down. You're only here to learn, not here to beat each other up. So yeah, we try and slowly introduce them that way.
Great.
And Matt, what's the spread of your timetable like? Do you have like equal kind of gi and no gi, or is it more of a no gi club? I know Adelaide has a pretty big no gi scene. Or what's your setup?
Yeah, the no gi thing definitely growing a lot more, and I kind of feel that's because it's easier for people to get into. They can just turn up in whatever they're wearing and jump straight in. So when I started, Professor Tom was teaching gi in the winter and no gi in summer. Because of our summers are warm and the winters are cold, it was easy just to do it that way. And so I started doing that when I went down to Victor Harbour. he's since changed to doing both gi and no gi on most days. But I'm still doing gi in the winter and no gi in the summer. So I separate them. I do enjoy both myself, but I'm separating them as far as teaching them down there.
I've never heard of that before. That's amazing. I actually love the idea of immersing myself in one for a whole half a year and then the other for a half a year. I think that's really interesting.
Well, it does make it easier because instead of trying to do both and trying to wrap your head around grips and no grips, I find you really can learn more in one than you swap. And you get a couple of weeks where you go, oh no, what am I doing? And then you get back into the other one again. I know some people like to do one or the other, but I enjoy both, so I like to teach both.
How does that work then for the new students that come in the gi season? Do they pretty much, do you have like loaner gis that they can borrow?
Sometimes I do. For the most part, I'll have a no-gi technique alongside the gi technique. And when you're teaching beginners, we don't have to have them all in the gi on day one. Ideally, sooner the better. But there are techniques we can teach them right at the start that are similar to the gi techniques, but we just use no-gi grips. And I get them, started that way. And then if they enjoy it and they keep coming in, then I have a chat to them about getting a gi and getting in.
Yeah,
and they find a massive difference.
That's brilliant. So if you could go back in time and you could do it all again, like what would you do differently?
Oh, good question. Probably not too much. There'd be a few small details maybe I'd change, and but I think the way I've done it's been not too bad for me. I've been a real introvert my whole life, and so to put yourself out there and just be in front of people and say, look, I've got this, I think it's good for you, do you want to do it? It's kind of hard, but like I said earlier, I just love jiu-jitsu and just want to do jiu-jitsu, so I wanted to give everyone else the love that I've got of jiu-jitsu, and so hopefully they enjoy it and they get a lot more out of it.
Yeah, awesome. We're nearly out of time. Do you have any final words for our listeners? Any parting thoughts?
Only just enjoy your jiu-jitsu. Lately, I've been hearing quite a lot from some people that have been in jiu-jitsu a lot longer than me, in decades and decades in jiu-jitsu, just saying, train less, train longer. There's so many people that get in, they want to compete from day one, they end up getting burnt out or broken. Then they leave jiu-jitsu and they just don't really get the benefits that jiu-jitsu has to offer. I think there's a lot more than just learning how to handle yourself, learning how to fight, that jiu-jitsu can offer, and it takes time to learn those things and get the most out of it. So yeah, enjoy it, don't burn yourself out, don't work too hard. If you can, good, but just be mindful, if you want to do it forever, you got to look after your body. So
that's beautiful.
Yeah,
I love that. Thank you. That's very inspiring.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Well, thank you very much for giving up your time, Matt. It took us a little while to get this to happen, but I'm so glad that we did. So I know you're not big on social media, but if you could share this onto your platform, that would be fantastic to help grow our audience. And we hope our listeners have enjoyed getting to know you a bit more. I know I sure have. So you will have this out in a couple of weeks. And yeah, we look forward to hopefully anybody that's ever down to Victor Harbour, go check out Victor Harbour BJJ, meet Matt and his team. And yeah, thanks very much for giving up your time.
Absolutely. And it doesn't go unnoticed. Yeah, it doesn't go unnoticed, man, that you're an introvert and you've come on the show, you've done a podcast. That's a big deal, man. You know, I appreciate you putting yourself on the line, and you were great. We learned a lot. Kim and I have heard things, I'm sure, in this podcast we've never heard before. So thank you so much for sharing yourself. It's really, really valuable, and with our listeners as well. Cheers.
And all those other introverts that I keep asking to come on the podcast, take a listen and see what Matt's done, and you can do the same too.
Absolutely.
I'm always getting knocked back for guests to come on, but thank you, Matt, for accepting our offer. And yeah, we look forward to meeting you in person, hopefully one day.
Yeah, same. Thank you very much.
Cheers. Thanks, guys. Bye.